in Parshat Lech Lecha. Before we start, he gives a nice introduction. And just so you should know, even though I have spoken on this parsha many times, never did it online. This is the first time doing Lech Lecha online. I checked it out today because I want to see what did I speak about last year. I didn't want to repeat it again. Okay, so the Sidra, he says, this parsha begins a new birth of mankind. The story of Avram and his descendants. Now he's following, I'll tell you right now, he's following Ramban's definition of days here. When he says the first 2,000 years from creation were the era of desolation. For Ramban, he considers the first 2,000 years 2 days, because 1,000 years in God's eyes is like a day. So he's taking that following the Zohar, I believe. He does that. So that's the same thing. So that our school is doing here. They're using Ramban without saying Ramban's answer. So without saying Ramban's name. So he says the first 2,000 years from creation were the era of desolation. Adam had fallen, Abel, Hevel had been murdered, idolatry had been introduced to the world. 10 dismal generations had been washed away by the deluge, and 10 generations from Noah had failed. Avram was born in the year 1948 from creation. In the year 2000, 4 years after the dispersion and 6 years before the death of Noah, he started to influence disciples to serve Hashem. With the emergence of Avram, the era of desolation had come to an end, and the era of Torah had begun. Okay, so now he's saying that's Avodah Zarah. Fine. So the Avodah Zarah, so the Ramban is really following Avodah Zarah. Okay, fine. With Avram, there began a profound change in the spiritual nature of mankind. The plan of creation was for all humans to have an equal share in fulfilling the divine mission, and the Torah. And for the Torah to be given to all of mankind. So originally, when the Torah would be given, it would be given to every single human being on this planet. What happened? But after 20 years of after 20 generations of failure, the privilege of being God's chosen people was earned by Avraham and his offspring. They would receive the Torah, and they would be in the vanguard of perfecting the world and bringing all the people to accept the sovereignty of the one God. That's Derech Hashem. If you remember that from the path of God. That's number one. So the second thing is you have the concept of trial. This is again following Ramban. Avram did not win his new status by default. He had to prove his greatness by passing 10 tests of faith. The first trial mentioned in the Torah is the first passage of this parsha, namely Lech Lecha, leave. The command that Avram give up his entire past and follow Hashem's lead to a new land. By definition, a heavenly test is one that forces a person to choose between Hashem's will and his own nature or understanding of what's right. Because if God would have told him to leave and he would have thought it was correct, then there would be no test. You understand? Yeah. Test is only when I don't want to do it. So that's the test. Am I going to listen to God or not? Clearly, it would be no challenge to Avram, who was the epitome of kindness, to be asked to help the needy, but it would be a supreme test of faith for him to desert his aged father and a homeland, or to give his cherished beloved son as an offering. Thus, Avram was tested by being forced to subordinate his wishes and wisdom to those of God. By doing so, he demonstrated his conviction that man's highest goal is to accept the divine wisdom as the sole truth. That's an answer to all of your atheist friends. Since God knows all future events and how every person will respond to any given situation, why was it necessary to test Avraham? So according to Maimonides, Rambam, the trials were meant to display to the world how a great man obeys God. Thus, when Abraham set precedents in faithful obedience, his performance under extreme pressure becomes lessons for the rest of humanity. Ramban explains the concept of trial differently. Of course, the outcome is never in doubt to Hashem, for he knows that a person being tested will persevere. To the contrary, a just God does not impose trials that are beyond the capacity of the individual. God tests only righteous people who will do his will. not the wicked who will disobey. Thus, all the Torah's trials are for the benefit of those being tested. That's the chiddush of the Ramban, by the way. But that is known only to Hashem. The person being tested has free choice, and he must find the strength and wisdom to choose correctly. If he does, then he has translated his potential into action and made himself a greater person, for actual deed far outweighs mere potential in the heavenly scales of judgment, and he can therefore be rewarded for what he did rather than what he is merely capable of doing. And the last one, then we'll get to the actual text. It says, Avram comes to Canaan. God's command that Avram and Sarah sever all ties with their past and loved ones when they were 75 and 65 years old. Well, he was 75, she was 65. Okay, it was one of the 10 trials. For it is never easy for a person to start life over again, especially when he has achieved status and prosperity. By bringing him to Eretz Israel, the land of Israel, and promising that the land would become the heritage of his family, Hashem was establishing the land as an eternal patrimony of the Jewish people. There was a further symbolism. Though Avram and Sarah had many disciples, they were essentially alone. They could never blend into whatever culture surrounded them. Avram was an Ivri, from the word Aver, the other side. Literally, this means that he came to Canaan from the other side of the Euphrates. But these rabbis interpret the title in a deeper sense too. He was on one side of the moral and spiritual divide, and the rest of the world was on the other. Righteous people must be ready to endure such isolation. Popularity is pleasant, but is also a snare, because the natural desire to win the approval of all others can easily lead people to bend their principles. Avram and Sarah were now given the challenge of moving to the other side, not only of their native river, but of anyone who preferred not to acknowledge the sovereignty of God. At this point in his life, the patriarch's name was Avram, matriarch's name was Sarai. The names were not changed and to Avram and Sarah until chapter 17. Okay. 24 years after they left for Canaan. Nevertheless, in the notes we refer to them by the familiar names of. Okay, doing that for you. Okay, now let's go back to the verses. Okay, Vayom Hashem el Avram. So Hashem said to Avram, Lech, Lecha. Here, Rabbi Bowman made a whole thing last night about go to you. Okay, but we always translate as go for yourself. Why? Because it's Rashi. Lech Lecha lahanatcha letovatcha, for your benefit and for your good. That's what Rashi says. Lech Lecha. If you look at Rashi, in Aleph, it says lahanatcha letovatcha, for your benefit and for your good. That's why we always say, go for yourself.
Okay, so I mean, Mamish, it literally says, go to you.
Yep. And by the way, Ramban says in that, it's just the language. Don't worry about it. He doesn't get what Rashi gets. He says it's the language. That's how Hebrew works.
Yeah.
That's all. It's the language. You can make a drasha all you want, but it's still the language. He's not against the drasha. He's not against the interpretation of Rashi. He's just saying it's a drasha. It's not pshat. It's not the simple explanation. Simple explanation according to Ramban is it's just the language, how the language works.
So if you say, what does go to you mean? I guess it would be simple to say it means far yourself.
Right.
It seems to be the simplest.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
And he says, so Rashi continues, Sham etzcha l'goy gadol, there, where you, if you go where I'm telling you, so there I'll make you into a great nation, v'chein, v'kan, and here, ieto zochel lebanim, and here, if you stay where you are with your dad, then you're not going to merit to get to have children. And that's from Rosh Hashanah. And furthermore, Sha'odiyah ta'v'acha ba'olam, I want to inform, I will make known your nature in the world. That's why, Lech Lecha, go for yourself. It's going to be good for you, it's going to be good for me, and so on and so forth. Now, where are you going? Me'artzecha, from your land. That's the one thing. And then it says, Mimolatecha, and from your birthplace. U'mbeit avichem, from the house of your father. Each command, Ramban explains, was for the benefit of Avram. When it says, go for yourself, okay, from your land, because you know your land, Who wants to leave where they were born in those days? Now we're a very mobile community. I don't know many kids who stay in their hometown, but in those days it was difficult. You want to be around family, and then again from your birthplace. So not only is it going from your land, which would be like leaving Indiana, but now you have to leave from South Bend.
Travel was difficult then too.
Difficult, but more
miles was
right.
difficult.
But more than that, you're giving up everything you know. Yeah. Okay, and finally, leave your father's household. Whoa, you really? I understand. I should leave my land, no problem. My land. Then, so I'll leave again. I'll move from Boston. I'll come to South Bend. But when you tell me, from your land, right? From your land. From your birth, so that's you want me to leave from your land, right? So what's my land? My land is Massachusetts. Okay. Then it says from your birthplace, my birthplace. Now you want me to leave Dorchester. Okay. And now it says from your father's house. That's insanity. I want to go with my father. I want to be with somebody. But all these were challenges to Avram. Each one of them was a further test to Avram. Are you willing to do this? And then finally, Ela Aretz, to the land, Asher Eka, that I will show you. Again, I'm not telling you where. You can't plug it into your GPS because you don't know where you're going. But just take my word for it. I'm going to be your GPS. I'm going to tell you, take a right, take a left, and so on and so forth. Fine. And what happens if you do this? Hashem says, I will make you into a great nation. And I will bless you. And I will make your name great. And it will be a blessing, and you shall be a blessing. So Rashi says, what is going on here? She says, he explains, the fee. Why does he say that? Because the road, when you travel, it causes 3 negatives. The one is you don't have any children because you're always away. You're always traveling. You have no time to have a family life. The second thing is when you're traveling, and anybody who travels these days surely understands this, you lose money. Because you're always traveling, I have to put gas in the car. I have to feed the donkeys. I have to pay the hotel prices. It's a lot of things to go. When you're on the road, you're losing money. It's not a money-making thing when you're on the road. And finally, if you're constantly on the road, it makes your name smaller. In other words, if I'm here and I stay in South Bend, so I become a big fish in a small pond. There are rabbis that I know besides the one that was here, that stay in the place for their entire career. They'll stay in the one shul. Now, in that one shul, they are the king. No question about that. The police know them. They're well known in town because they've gone to all these committees, and they're very big people. Good. They leave town. Nobody. Who are you? I was the chief rabbi of Moncton, New Brunswick. Good. Where is Moncton, New Brunswick? Yeah. Okay. For those in Moncton, I apologize, but. But really, I was the chief rabbi. I was the only rabbi, so I'm the chief rabbi by default. Okay, but when I leave that place, nobody even knows what I'm talking about. Okay, so when you go on the road, your name becomes less. You notice you don't have a good reputation. By the way, you see this also in politics. Before Herman Cain went on the road, he was a tzaddik. You remember Herman Cain? Yeah. 999. Yeah. But when he went on the road, suddenly he's a rapist, he's this, he's that. It's crazy how his reputation was solid. I don't think they call him rapist, but I forget what he did.
What do you call it?
Sexual problems.
Yeah.
Right, so he did that. And all these other guys, whenever they go into the public eye, they're made blood from. Their reputation is destroyed. You have to have a thick skin in politics. But that's what it's saying. When you go on the road, it hurts you. And so Hashem was saying the opposite. If you go on the road, if you do what I'm doing, I'm going to give you a bracha that I'm going to increase in him. I'm going to increase your money. I'm going to increase your children. I'm going to give you everything you normally would lose. I'm going to give you those things. Okay. And then he says, you will be a bracha. What does that mean? The brachot will be given into your hand. So God says, until now, the brachot were in my hand. I chose to bless Adam. I chose to bless Noach. But from now on, you will be able to choose who you want to give a bracha to. So it's a big responsibility. Okay? And that, again, I already covered that, so I won't cover that again. Fine, let's go. So that says, Gimel, I will bless those who bless you. By the way, this is the line that the Christians love. That's why they love the Jews when it comes to this. All the evangelistic Christians out there. So they say, they know that God, they say, God says, I will bless those who bless you. And those who curse you, I will curse. And through you, all of the families of the world will be blessed. So Rashi says a very simple thing. He said what it means is they will bless you and say you should be like Avram and so on and so forth. You should be kind like Avram and that's how they're going to do that. But again, if this is something that people have to be very careful of. If they curse the Jews, now here's something else that Hirsch points out. If you notice, what I was just saying, Avavarcha is the same shoresh. Right? Bless. Kneel.
Yeah.
Okay? So I will bless those who bless you. Fine. So that, like I said, everybody wants to know that, and that's why everybody wants to love the Jew, because they love the Jew and they praise the Jew, then God will bless them. Fine. Now it comes to Lecha, or those who curse you, outwardly curse you. Hirsch says this, or I will curse inwardly, because it's not the same shoresh. It went from kalal to aror. So he says there's a difference in the words. Kalel is you curse me openly, on the outside, whatever. Or is I'm going to get you inward. So it's a much bigger thing.
And they don't translate it like that.
No, that's why they don't. Right, it's a Hirsch that does that. I don't think they even say it here. I doubt it.
Oh, in the English.
In the commentaries, they didn't. I don't think they wanted to say that. It's a Hirschian comment.
Oh. Verse 3?
Yeah, they didn't say that.
No, it doesn't sound.
No. You have to read Hirsch, but then you'd see it. But it's an amazing thing. He's looking at words.
Interesting.
Okay. So now after that, Vayelech Avram. So Avram went Kasher Diber Elav Hashem, just as Hashem spoke to him. Vayelech Ito Lot. Lot went with him. Avram ben Chamesh Shanim v'Shivim Shana. Avram was 75 years old. B'tzeito me Haran, when he left from Haran. Okay, the simple stuff here. Now Lot had an opportunity to stay with his grandfather. That's why we have to hear Lot. We know that Sarai went with him, because that's his wife. So we have no question on Sarai.
Yeah.
But the question is, why did Lot go with him?
I thought Lot was his nephew.
Lot is his nephew and brother-in-law. Lot is Sarai's brother from Haran. Haran had 3 children, Lot, Milcah, and Sarai. Otherwise known as Yiska. But so Avram married Sarai, Nahor married Milcah, and Lot didn't have a wife. Lot was, I guess, independent. I'm not sure what was. Maybe he had a wife. I don't know. Doesn't say anything about his wife. Oh, later on, it'll say about his wife.
Sorry.
What?
Lot was what to Sarai?
Brother.
So why wouldn't he be Abraham's brother-in-law?
He is.
He is.
He is his brother-in-law, and he's also Avram is also his uncle.
Oh, because
Haran was the brother of Avram.
Oh, okay.
So he's really, that's why I always say, the brother-in-law, uncle.
Okay, interesting.
Right, so he's related to him both ways. Oh. But the question is, why didn't Lot remain with his grandfather, Terach? Terach is alive. Oh. Terach didn't die. Avram's leaving at 75. He was born when Terach was 70. So Terach is now 145. Terach is going to live to 205 years old. Terach already left Or custom. He's in Haran. So the question is, why did Lot leave with Avram? Why didn't he stay with his father, his grandfather? Okay. By the way, he could have gone back to his other uncle. Why, Nachor? Why? What's going on here? So this is one of the praises that we give to him, because he. So if you look at number 4, Lot's father was Haran, Avram's father, who had died in the flames of war custom. Avram then undertook the responsibility of raising the orphaned Lot. Okay. Some commentators note that God had not bidden Avram to take Lot with him. That Lot's later behavior showed that he should not have done so. The Zohar Chadash explains that Avram took him because he foresaw that David and Mashiach would descend from Lot, and because Haran had died in support of Avram, and so Avram felt he had to be compassionate to his son. That's why Avram would take him. The question is, why would Lot go? Lot's not a young guy here. Lot seems to be an older fellow. So because he's going to own a lot of land, a lot of sheep, he's going to have servants. So the question is why. And I want to say that because Lot was at this time a good guy. He wasn't a wicked person. He liked the message that Avram was giving. He was probably enthralled by it. And it was so much against what was going on in society at that point. And he figured that Avram is going on a new adventure. Why not go with him? What do I have to stay with my grandfather for? I can always come back there, but I don't have to do that. So because of that, he gets credit, though. He's credited greatly with leaving the security of Terach's home to go with Avram. So, I mean, that's why he gets rich in the end of the story. So now what happens? Avram took Sarai, his wife, and Lot, his nephew, and all their possessions that they had amassed. And also, you see that he's has some money here. So, and also the soul, which would be ultimately souls, people, but it's collective form, that they made in Haran, and then they went out, Lech toward the land of Canaan, and they came toward the land to the land of Canaan. So Rashi explains what's going on here. What does it mean, Asher Asu Becharan? What does it mean that they made in the souls that they made in Haran? So Rashi says, that he brought these people under the wings of the divine presence. So Abraham converted the men, Sarah converted the women, and so since they converted them, it brought them under the wings of the divine presence. So it says the verse considers that action as if they made them, which would also play out later in the Torah with Moshe. When Moshe is given credit for, it says, these are the children of Moshe and Aaron, and it only lists Aaron's children. Remember that? So the question is, why didn't you list Moshe's children, and why are you listing Aaron's children with Moshe? And it says, because Moshe taught them Torah, therefore we learn from that any person who teaches Torah to somebody, it's as if they are his parent. So here, if I bring them under the divine presence of God, it's as if I made them, which is why when a person converts, they no longer have any lineage to their background. That's why they're called Ben Avraham, right? They don't go, their parents are considered null and void, which is why interestingly enough, halachically, we don't do this obviously, the rabbi said no, but going to the Torah, if a mother and a son would convert, the mother could marry the son. Because they're not related according to Jewish life. You can argue biologically all you want. I'm not going to argue biologically. But because they're a new bria, a new creation, theoretically, they can marry each other. Again, the rabbi said no. We saw, you can't find such a loophole like that because that would be ridiculous. But nonetheless, it is that's how far we go in saying it was a new creation. So that's why Rashi's bringing this down here to say the soul that they made in Haran. Ramban doesn't do that. Ramban says, what is this referring to? The servants that they acquired. So you can have it either way. Either he brought them under the Shekhinah, or just simply he bought them in Haran and he's leaving with everybody and he's going towards that land. Now it says, V'yavor Avram ba'aretz. So Avram passed through the land. Ad mekom Shechem. Now the question is, what does it mean he passed through the land? Isn't he going there? What are you doing? So Rashi says, Nichnas letocha. He entered into the midst of it. Notice this was destination. This was point zero. Or what are they, ground zero? This is ground zero. You want it to be there. It's not that when I say I'm passing through, it's like when we drive from here to New York. I pass through a couple of states. I don't stop there unless I have to go to the bathroom. But I'm going straight. I'm passing through Ohio. I'm Yavor, Ohio, Yavor, Pennsylvania, Yavor, what's it called, New Jersey, and finally I come to the other place. So that's why Rashi says here, it wasn't that he's passing through. Nichnas betochi, went into it. Okay? Ad mekom Shechem, until this place of Shechem. Why did he stop there? So Rashi explains because he had to pray for the Bnei Yaakov when they came to fight against Shechem. So he had a bit of a prophecy here. He saw what was going to happen. So he said, I better offer up a prayer so that the people will not, so that my great-grandchildren, right? Great-great-grandchildren will not be harmed. And then he says, ad Elo Mareh, also until then he came to Elo Mareh, which is Shechem. So once again, he showed him Har Gerizim and Har Eval, that the people would accept the Shavua to be Arevim Zebazet, to be guarantors for one another. And finally, it says, Ve'aknani az ba'arts. And the Canaanites were then in the land. So here Avram's going through. Now why does the Torah have to tell us the Canaanites were in the land? So he says, Hayaholech v'goveshet Yisrael mizaro shel Canaan took over the land, conquered the land from Shem. And so the portion of Shem that fell into Canaan, in that area, when Noah divided up the lands. And as it says, Melchizedek was the king of Shalem, and we know that Melchizedek was really Shem. So he says, V'yomer al Avram, so he says to Avram, to your seed I will give this land. In the future I will return it to your children, because they are the seed of Shem. So why does it have to say the Canaanim were then in the land? Because right now it's not your land. It's not your land yet. You will have the land, but it's not yours presently. So this has to be emphasized at this moment. Okay, let me just go a couple more verses. Okay, V'yatek misham. So, I'm sorry. V'yera Hashem el Avram. So Hashem appeared to Avram. V'yomer, and he said, Zaracha, to your seed, attain the Aretz, I will give this land. I will give this land. V'yeven Sham Mizbeach. So he builds there an altar. Why did he build the altar there? Because he was saying thank you. He got nice news. So he's saying thank you very much. Shkayach. And then Hashem Anira Elav, to Hashem who appeared before him. V'yatek misham hahara. So he uprooted from there, relocated from there to the mountain area. Mikad Beit El, to the east of Beit El. V'yed Ahalo. There he pitched his tent. Now, if you look at Ahalo, it's written with a hey, right? It's not written with a vav. It should be Ahalo with a vav. Why is it with a hey? Rashi says because first he set up his wife's tent, Ahala, and then he set up his tent to teach Derech Eretz. First you make sure your wife is set, then you can pitch your own tent. Otherwise you cannot do that. And Beit El, again in Beit El, Miyam, from the south, Ve'ai Mikedem, and Ai was to the east. Ve'ivin Sham Mizbeach Hashem, and Rikra B'Shem Hashem. He built there another altar to Hashem, and he called in the name of Hashem. And finally, Vayisa Avram went, traveled, Alof and so on, steadily traveling toward the south, to which Rashi says, by the end of his life, he would ultimately cover the whole land. And that's how you make You want to get that, please? That's how you make an acquisition of land. You walk around the land. When you do that, you're showing ownership. We'll have to stop there.
Okay. Sure.